You know that feeling when you place a bet just for fun, purely for the thrill of it, and then boom, you hit the jackpot and you think, holy crap, I'm lucky. I'm in the spotlight. I'm better than all these people. This is the easiest money I've ever made. And in the very next moment, you start thinking, maybe I shouldn't bother going back to a regular job where money comes slow, hard, and boring. If I can make it here, fast, easy, and full of excitement. But here's exactly where the trap lies. Caught up in emotions, people forget that even in moments of absolute triumph, you always have to stay grounded and understand that gambling is a risk, not a steady source of income. The heroes of today's video didn't understand that, and we've even managed to get comments from some of them. So pay close attention, because you definitely don't want your name featured in my next video. Now, right now, I'll show you 5 incredible stories about people who lost millions of dollars, their reputations, and some even their lives. We're talking record-breaking bets, dangerous connections, the mysterious Japanese mafia, Donald Trump, and genuine tragedies. Let's get started. How can you lose $1.8 million in just 3 minutes and not even realize what happened? You're about to find out in our first story. Robert Maxwell, a legendary yet scandalous British personality, one of the most influential media moguls of the 20th century, owner of a vast empire of publishing houses and newspapers, a multi-millionaire, a man who could decide the fate of politicians and influence global events with a single phone call. But Maxwell wasn't actually British, and his name wasn't even Maxwell. He was born in 1923 into an ordinary Jewish family in Czechoslovakia, now Ukraine, as Jan Ludwig Hoch. His family was desperately poor. He survived World War II, lost almost his entire family in a concentration camp, miraculously escaped death himself, and even fought for the British Army. After the war, Jan changed his name to Robert Maxwell, moved to Britain, and started a new life. He was incredibly ambitious, quickly amassed wealth, and created an empire that made him famous. But this was just one side of the coin. Maxwell had an explosive, uncontrollable temper, literally couldn't stand losing, and lived for one thing only: absolute victory in everything. He was married to a French woman, Elizabeth, had 9 children, including Ghislaine Maxwell, who became notorious worldwide through the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. But his family was always secondary. Maxwell's priorities were always power, money, and status. His business style was ruthless and aggressive. His competitors feared him, and he never hesitated to threaten, blackmail, or litigate. It seemed he simply enjoyed creating an atmosphere of fear and tension around him. He brought this exact mentality to the casino as well. Maxwell didn't simply gamble. He attacked casinos. He made outrageous bets, always abruptly and aggressively. His bodyguards even dubbed it Maxwell's Blitzkrieg. Walk in, throw down money, win or lose, walk out. The whole process took no more than 5 minutes. No emotions, no hesitations. One summer evening in 1991, after an especially heated argument with his business partners, Maxwell walked into London's Lamb Asador Casino and did what no one else had dared before. He began placing bets simultaneously on 3 roulette wheels. He thought this tactic would beat the casino and its math, finally granting him the thrill of absolute victory. But that's not how things turned out. In just 3 minutes, Maxwell lost $1.8 million. That's a record $10,000 per second. Just imagine, each second cost him the equivalent of a brand new car. But the scariest part was that Maxwell didn't even comprehend how it happened. He lost, stood up stone-faced, walked out of the casino without uttering a single word, and quietly drove home. Yet this was just the tip of the iceberg. Maxwell repeatedly found himself in such situations, betting bigger, losing even bigger, borrowing money from shady individuals, and even taking funds from his own company, gradually collapsing his empire from within. The finale of his story was tragic and mysterious. In 1991, Robert Maxwell was found dead in the sea near the Canary Islands, close to his yacht. Many theories emerged. Some said it was revenge by his enemies. Others believed he jumped into the water himself due to the financial collapse and overwhelming debts he could no longer repay. To this day, his death remains one of the era's greatest mysteries. But one thing everyone agrees on: his insatiable appetite for gambling and risk played a decisive role in the tragic end of his life. Here's what Robert Maxwell himself had to say about this situation.
Yes, I lost almost $2 million in 3 minutes. So what? You seriously think it bothers me? Listen, everything I have I gained because I always took risks. If I hadn't risked it all, I'd still be that poor kid from Czechoslovakia, someone no one ever heard about. There wouldn't have been any millions, no media empire, no newspapers, no TV channels, no connections with politicians, presidents, or prime ministers. There would be nothing. The estudious for me, risk is the only way to achieve something big. I've always lived and gambled the same way, going all in, everything or nothing. That's exactly how I built everything I have, how I gained this power. And if the price I must pay is losing sometimes, then I'm willing to pay it. Because you know what? People remember winners, and the only ones who become winners are those who aren't afraid to lose.
Yes, Maxwell lost almost $2 million in 3 minutes. But let's be honest, he genuinely didn't care. And that's exactly the trap. We aren't all Maxwells. For some people, even losing $1,000 can be devastating. So always remember, gambling is fun, but only as long as you control the game, not the other way around. If you play, keep your head clear, think about the consequences, and never make bets bigger than you can comfortably afford to lose. And what would you say about someone who turned $50 into $40 million and then lost it all? Think that's impossible? Just keep watching. The next story is a gambling classic, a perfect illustration that winning at the casino isn't just about money, but about how easily you can lose control. Archie Karas, real name Anargyros Karabunoitis, was born in 1950 on the small Greek island of Kefalonia. His childhood was harsh and difficult. His father was authoritarian and frequently punished the kids severely, and there was barely enough food for even one family member. This profoundly affected Archie, and at 15, he decided he couldn't live that way anymore and ran away from home. The first few years living on the streets were tough. He worked whatever jobs he could find, waiter, dishwasher, loader, but he never made enough money. At 17, Archie decided to radically change his life by moving to the USA. Arriving in Los Angeles with no English skills and just $100 in his pocket, he found a job as a waiter in a local restaurant. It was there Archie discovered the gambling world. One day, someone suggested playing a game of pool for money. Archie won. That victory was a turning point for him. He realized that risk was the key to the new life he'd always dreamed about. Archie quickly became known in gambling circles for his incredible boldness. He always played on the edge, betting everything he had. His style was extremely risky, but it brought him massive wins. But Archie Karas' true legend began in 1992, when he lost nearly everything and was left with only $50. Anyone else might have quit, but Archie borrowed $10,000 from a friend and headed straight for Las Vegas. Then something incredible happened. Within days, those $10,000 turned into $30,000, then $100,000. And within a few weeks, he had $7 million. Archie Karas became a Las Vegas legend, the man who turned $50 into multi-million-dollar fortunes. Casinos both feared and craved his visits. He threw millions onto tables of dice, baccarat, poker, and roulette. In less than 3 years, he achieved an astonishing $40 million. But Archie didn't stop. He sincerely believed he was invincible, that casinos could never beat him. And this was his fatal mistake. Gradually, he started losing. First, a few million, then even more. He switched to baccarat, a game where casinos always have the advantage. And within less than a month, he lost it all, every one of his $40 million. Afterwards, Archie tried returning to the game, but nothing worked anymore. He was arrested several times for cheating accusations, including using marked cards and other scams. Today, Archie Karas lives modestly in Las Vegas, far removed from fame and wealth. His story stands as a powerful reminder of how one man had everything but couldn't stop when it mattered. But the most interesting part, we were lucky enough to speak with Archie himself, and here's how he commented on his story.
You know, I've told this story so many times it almost feels like I'm just watching a movie about someone else. What more can I say? You probably know it all already. Yeah, it really was $50. Borrowed money. Las Vegas, where I still live, and those crazy $40 million. It was all real, not fiction. How did I lose it all? Hard to say. I was young. Thought I was smarter than those casino guys, cooler than everyone. I kept winning. Thought I had it figured out, but truth is, I was just greedier and dumber. Betting those huge amounts, honestly, I didn't care about the money. Just chips, Numbers, whiskey, whether it's $100 or $100,000, it all felt the same, just adrenaline. You think you'll keep winning. Then one day it all crashed. Lost $1 million, then $2 million. Thought I'd win it back like always, but suddenly I had nothing left. Nothing. I don't remember it clearly. Might have been a shock. Life kind of fell apart. No miracle came. Started drinking a lot, still do sometimes, but my health's, not the same. Still, I don't regret it. I lived how I wanted, ate what I liked, had plenty of female attention, and I'm glad I had that chapter. Some people never get one.
Archie Karas is a vivid example of how someone can rise from the absolute bottom to incredible heights and lose everything due to just one thing: inability to stop in time. He was a brilliant gambler, truly talented, but his biggest mistake was believing he was unbeatable. Always remember, the worst mistake a gambler can make is thinking you're smarter than the system, thinking you can always win it back, no matter how much you've already lost. That's exactly what Archie thought, and it cost him everything. So remember, if you lose, stop. Accept it. It's better to lose a third or half of your money and have a chance later rather than losing it all. But can you lose tens of millions and still stay true to yourself? The next story will surprise you. Charles Barkley isn't just an NBA star. He's a living basketball legend. Charismatic, outspoken, sometimes even controversial. He's always stood out. Barkley was born in 1963 in the tiny town of Leeds, Alabama, where from early childhood, he knew what it meant to struggle for survival. His mother worked as a cleaning lady, and the family lived right on the edge of poverty. But that's exactly what shaped Charles's tough, confident, and resilient character. When he entered the NBA, he literally exploded into the big leagues. League MVP, 11-time All-Star, 2 Olympic gold medals. In the 90s, Barkley was at the peak of his popularity. Multi-million-dollar endorsement deals, TV appearances. He could afford anything he wanted. Yet outside basketball, gambling became his greatest passion. Initially, it was just casual bets on sports events with friends or trips to the casino for fun. But gradually, it evolved into something much bigger. Barkley started betting hundreds of thousands of dollars per night, sometimes even more than $1 million. He gambled in Las Vegas, Atlantic City, and even at private parties. He literally threw money onto casino tables, believing himself unstoppable. But one night, his confidence took a major hit. He lost $2.5 million in a single night. It was his first serious wake-up call. But Barkley didn't stop, thinking it was just a temporary setback. In total, over several years, Charles lost over $30 million gambling. At one point, he even faced a lawsuit over failing to repay a $400,000 casino debt on time. This event became a turning point for him. In 2008, Charles Barkley held a press conference and did something almost no one in his position would dare to do. He publicly admitted having a gambling problem.
I've lost millions, but it's not about money. It's about losing control. I thought I could handle gambling, but it was gambling that controlled me.
After that, he completely stopped gambling for a few years, sought professional help, changed his life, and even began openly discussing his experiences to help others avoid similar mistakes. When he eventually returned to gambling, he set a strict rule for himself.
I only gamble with money I wouldn't even notice losing. If I lose, I smile, say thank you, and walk away. Because the biggest win in gambling isn't the money you win. It's having the strength to say enough at the right moment.
Today, Charles Barkley is among the rare few who've traveled from the euphoria of huge wins to crushing defeats, yet managed to stay true to themselves. He still gambles, but now responsibly, clearly understanding it's entertainment, not the purpose of his life. Charles Barkley is a true champion, not just on the basketball court, but in life as well. Sure, he lost a lot of money, but most importantly, he was brave enough to openly admit it, acknowledge his mistakes, and take control of the situation. This isn't a story about defeat, it's a story about the strength of character. If you're going to gamble, do it like Charles does today, casually, sensibly, and without drama, because life goes on even after huge losses. The key is learning from your experiences and moving forward. Up next, a billionaire whose gambling addiction literally cost him his life. Imagine a person who can lose $10 million in just a few hours without even blinking. Meet Akio Kashiwagi, a Japanese billionaire, hotel chain owner, property developer, and probably the most mysterious gambler in casino history. Akio Kashiwagi was born in Japan in 1938. From his youth, he was accustomed to luxury and wealth, coming from a family influential in Japanese business circles. But he didn't merely inherit money. Akio quickly established himself as a talented businessman. He built several hotels, invested heavily in real estate, and accumulated billions. Kashiwagi lived in an extravagant residence at the foot of the famous Mount Fuji, had a wife, children, and was a respected member of Japan's high society. But behind this public facade, he had one enormous passion he carefully concealed: gambling, especially baccarat, a game known for astronomical bets. Akio didn't gamble for fun. He played for adrenaline, the thrill of risk, and the power of controlling fate. Initially, everything went exceptionally well. He regularly flew to Las Vegas, wagering hundreds of thousands of dollars on single bets. In one evening, he could easily lose or win millions. For casinos, he was a dream client, high risk and extremely generous. They offered him the finest accommodations, luxurious suites, and anything else he desired. At that time, a young entrepreneur named Donald Trump was rapidly expanding his gambling business in the U.S. Trump owned the lavishly expensive Trump Taj Mahal Casino Hotel in Atlantic City, which needed massive funds to maintain. Hearing about a Japanese billionaire who could gamble tens of millions of dollars in a single night, Trump realized this was exactly the guest he needed. To lure Akio, Trump offered unbelievable perks: a 2-story penthouse with ocean views, a personal chef, a private butler, and an entire army of security guards. Naturally, Kashiwagi couldn't resist, and in February 1990, he arrived in the U.S. Akio's very first night at the Taj Mahal Casino ended tragically. Within hours, he lost $10 million. But rather than accepting the loss and moving on, he immediately decided he had to recover his losses. Kashiwagi promised Trump he'd return the next month, bringing even more, $15 million, to play even bigger. But the rematch never happened. Akio never returned to Trump, and in 1992, he was found dead in his home in Japan. It was a brutal murder. He'd been stabbed more than 150 times with a genuine samurai sword. The investigation hit a dead end. No evidence, no witnesses. Rumors quickly emerged. Kashiwagi hadn't only lost his own money, but had gambled with the funds of powerful individuals and even the Japanese mafia, the notorious Yakuza. They, according to speculation, were behind this horrific execution. Casinos, including Donald Trump, refused to comment on the situation. Akio's family also remained silent, trying quickly to forget this chilling episode. Akio Kashiwagi's death remains one of gambling history's most chilling and mysterious incidents. But one thing is absolutely clear: gambling and the inability to say stop became fatal for this incredibly successful and influential man. Akio Kashiwagi's story is a stark warning about gambling with borrowed money and attempting to recoup losses at any cost. Kashiwagi believed his connections, wealth, and status could resolve any issue. But in real life, the rules of the game are dictated by those to whom you owe money. Casinos never forgive debts, and those who lend money for gambling always demand repayment. Remember this clearly: never gamble with borrowed money or place bets that might put you in debt. Debt in a casino is always a path to catastrophe, and sometimes, as we've seen, that catastrophe is far worse than simply losing money. And now, the grand finale: the biggest casino loss in history. A man who had everything and ended up losing absolutely everything. Trust me, you'll want to hear this. This is the story of the man officially recognized as the biggest gambler in casino history. Terry Watanabe wasn't just someone who lost money. He was a man who, for years, single-handedly sustained Las Vegas on his own fortune. But let's start from the beginning. Terry was born in 1957 in Omaha, Nebraska, into the family of Harry Watanabe, founder of Oriental Trading Company, one of America's most successful businesses selling party supplies. From his teenage years, Terry worked at the company, and by age 20, his father had named him CEO. Under Terry's leadership, the business experienced incredible growth. He transformed a small operation with just a few stores into a giant enterprise, generating over $300 million annually. Yet this success completely consumed his life. Terry worked around the clock, had no personal life, no real friends, and never married. His company became everything to him. In 2000, utterly exhausted, Terry made the biggest decision of his life. He sold Oriental Trading Company for hundreds of millions of dollars. At that time, This seemed like a perfect choice. He gained absolute freedom, unlimited wealth, and no obligations. Initially, he dedicated himself to philanthropy, donating millions to cancer and AIDS research and supporting political projects. But soon, he realized this wasn't enough. He craved excitement, adrenaline, something edgy and new. That's when Vegas entered his life. At first, his visits were innocent weekend trips, a little blackjack, some roulette, expensive whiskey, luxurious dinners, socializing. Casinos quickly recognized Terry as more than just another guest. He was a gold mine capable of losing millions. They enticed him with anything he desired: lavish suites, private jets, elite liquors, and attractive company. Unknowingly, Terry lost control. His bets escalated rapidly. $100,000, then $200,000 per game, then $1 million per hand. He sometimes lost $5 to $7 million a day. But it no longer mattered. Gambling had completely overtaken his life. After losing tens of millions, Terry desperately tried to recover, and casinos gladly continued extending him credit. He became the perfect client, staying in the most expensive suites, always accompanied by a personal manager, and provided endless alcohol. His preferred drink was Jewel of Russia vodka, costing $200 per bottle, which he consumed several of daily. Casino staff recall him often gambling nearly unconscious, even falling asleep at the table, yet nobody thought to stop him. By 2007, Terry had become so vital to Caesar's Palace that he alone accounted for nearly 5% of their annual revenue. Just imagine this: one of Las Vegas's largest casinos earned every 20th dollar of their profit from one single person. But even his massive fortune had limits. First, he lost $10 million, then another 18. Eventually, he made a desperate move, taking his remaining $120 million and placing it all in a final attempt to win back his losses at Harrah's Casino. Within just a few months, he lost everything, $204 million in total. All the money he had accumulated through a lifetime of hard work vanished, consumed by his devastating addiction. When the money ran out, the casino simply cut him off. Terry was left with nothing: no company, no money, massive debts, and utter despair. Later, he sued the casinos, claiming they deliberately enabled his addiction by continuously serving him alcohol. The court rejected his claim, stating that Terry himself had signed documents accepting the terms of the games. Today, Terry Watanabe lives very modestly and publicly discusses how gambling ruined his life, hoping his story serves as a warning to others. His experience is a stark example of the dangers of playing with fire, even when you think you could afford to lose it all. Here's what Terry himself had to say.
Honestly, I'm just tired of talking about all this. Journalists keep pulling me into interviews, asking the same stuff. How did it happen? How do I feel? How did I end up like this? I've said it all 100 times. I just want to move on, live quiet, stop being asked. Anyway, in the beginning, it was good. I worked all my life, sold my company, finally had real money. Thought, now I'll live. And yeah, at first it was just fun. New people, casinos, drinks, girls, that whole vibe. I didn't care much. I'd sit there with a drink in one hand, throwing chips like it was Monopoly money. Winning, losing, didn't matter. It felt like a video game, like I had a cheat code. And then one morning, I woke up and it just wasn't fun anymore. I looked around and realized I was broke, owed money. The so-called friends were gone. Family barely looked at me. And I didn't even notice the moment it turned from fun to something darker, like an addiction I never planned for. The worst? Probably the money. I mean, if I had it back, maybe some of those people would still be around. Now I sit here, look at myself and think, so champ, you win? Feel good?
Terry Watanabe's story is a textbook example of how easily one can lose control. He had so much money, it seemed he could afford to lose repeatedly. Even Terry himself believed that, until one day he realized his money was gone. His critical mistake wasn't gambling, it was crossing the line where entertainment ceased to be entertainment. Terry admits it to himself. Had he said enough earlier, today's story would be entirely different, or perhaps he wouldn't have appeared in this video at all. Friends, I'm sure after hearing these stories, you've got plenty to think about, because a casino isn't just entertainment or a quick way to make easy money. It's a place where luck matters, sure, but it's also about self-control, strategy, and knowing exactly when to say enough. Now, we created this episode specifically to show you the importance of keeping balance in any game. If you're playing and genuinely want to learn how to gamble smartly, avoiding the mistakes you've just seen, click the link below or simply search for our site online. There, you'll find not only professional gaming strategies, but also exclusive bonuses and everything you need to significantly boost your chances of winning. Trust me, it's definitely worth your time. And of course, hit that like button if you enjoyed this video. That's how we know you want even more awesome content. Subscribe if you haven't yet, and don't miss our next video. I promise you'll love it. We'll see you there.